obesity problem is what in America? Type 2 diabetes. Okay, that would go along with glucose control. Decreased anxiety and depression, what I made reference to earlier, working with somebody going through a challenge, right? Okay, 30 minutes a day of moderate intensity exercise is recommended for reducing the risk of lifestyle diseases. ACE goes further, make a note, 150 minutes a week is what they recommend at a minimum to improve function, 150 minutes. Okay, fitness, muscular strength, muscular endurance, we touched on it a little bit, cardiorespiratory endurance, flexibility, and body composition. Anybody know what body composition means?
Percentage? Being BMI?
Similar. Body composition means percent fat. BMI is sort of a weight-height proportion. Good question though. BMI, it can be good, but it can be bad too, because BMI does not adequately differentiate between obese individuals and athletic individuals.
Very highly inaccurate.
Thank you, Nathan. I didn't want to be too opinionated, but BMI is BS, generally. Okay, body composition, very, very interesting. One of my big interests, if I take and I will call for a volunteer at some point if somebody would like to, but body composition, through repetition, I can probably give you a pretty good estimation of what somebody's percent body fat is, okay? Through skin fold calipers. But we'll get into that later, okay? But when it comes to the time, if somebody would like me to do that, I'd be more than happy to do so, okay?
You don't,
Oh,
can I ask you a question?
I'm sorry.
What did you say about body composition? You don't think it's,
no,
We were
BMI.
talking about the BMI thing.
BMI,
okay.
body mass index, does not differentiate well between an obese person and an athletic person.
okay,
Here, let me,
For example, my BMI is 33. According to the BMI scale, I am morbidly
Yeah.
obese.
Did you
I
say
don't
me?
think I'm morbidly obese. I have some fat on me for sure, but I don't think I'm morbidly obese.
okay.
So that's an example of BMI.
Because you're heavier, because muscle.
Well, I mean,
That's the
I
funny
definitely
part.
have some fat, but
Well,
yeah.
So what exactly does the BMI measure? Like, is it
It
different
measures
things
your
or
height,
just?
weight, and I
Age.
want to say there's an age component
Yeah, there's
too.
an age component, that's like
Right,
all the
yeah,
Army
yeah.
cares about.
I'd like you
is-
to meet a
is
friend
that
of mine.
scale.
This is Steve Dixon. Steve Dixon is morbidly obese. Okay? He's not. Yeah, Steve went through a class similar to this. He works with us. He's my friend. Knows a great deal about what we're talking about now. So again, we got two people here and here, morbidly obese. Do they look morbidly obese to you?
Hi, Steve, I'm Todd,
Yeah.
I'm morbidly obese.
Yeah, so no, thanks, Steve.
It's like an AA meeting.
We're just talking about BMI, how much BS it is, because it doesn't adequately differentiate between what? An athletic physique and an obese physique. Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
But anyways, we'll see Steve a little bit later again. But again, two examples. Those men don't look obese to you, do they? They don't to me either. So, was I clicking on that? Okay. But body composition, much better than BMI. One quick sidebar with body composition. When you become certified and you're gonna start accumulating a resume of things that you've done in your career with regard to that, okay? It was kind of fun for me. I was on the top of the world when I passed ACE's exam, because it's hard, I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. Well, I went into the realm of teaching, but I wanted more, so I gained more education, and then made muster with ACE to be an instructor as well. But having said that is, with body composition, it's a nice way of expanding your knowledge base to do good for the public too, because I've had a couple of young men that wanted to serve their country in the military, and the recruiter says, nope, did BMI and you're morbidly obese.
Mhm.
They came to me, Zach, God, can you help me? I don't know. I tried to join the Navy, but they wouldn't take me on September 11th, 2001, but I'll try, you know. So I'll tell them, Did you serve our country? Well, not exactly, sir, I'm a police officer. Oh, okay, well then that breaks the ice a little bit. And I said, X is trying to sign up for the armed forces with your branch, and with as much respect as I can muster, this boy's not morbidly obese. Well, can you articulate why he's not? I said, yeah, I can do a body composition on him, and I give him the wherewithal and the whys and so forth, and why I'm qualified to do it and so forth. Yeah, comes back with a body comp of about 12%. That's well below the national average. Mr. Recruiter, here's my findings, this is my rationale, I did it with 2 protocols. Guess what? They accepted that. There's one thing, another thing you can do for your fellow man as a personal trainer is combat misnomers with what knowledge? Okay, so physiology of the cardiorespiratory system. For muscles to contract, they need energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate. That's ATP. I'm going to go a little bit further. Muscles' favorite food is a thing we call glycogen. Okay? The cardiorespiratory system is responsible for 3 basic processes. Okay? Get oxygen into the blood, deliver oxygen to the muscles. That's what we term oxygen delivery. Extract the oxygen from the blood to form ATP. All right. Oxygen carrying capacity is affected by 2 primary factors: the ability to adequately ventilate the alveoli in the lungs and the hemoglobin concentration in the blood. If we don't have 2 of things working well, we're not going to have success. Okay, oxygen delivery. Okay, oxygen delivery is the function of cardiac output. Okay, the quantity of blood pumped per minute. So cardiac output. You see the Q here, gang? Once in a while you'll see Q also with a dot above it or below it. Don't let that throw you. Not like the Motley Crue umlaut 2 dots. It'll just be 1 above or below. Cardiac output equals stroke volume times heart rate. Okay? Stroke volume is the amount of blood pumped during each heartbeat. Cardiac output increases due to increases in both stroke volume and heart rate. Okay? It seems obvious, but sometimes it doesn't. Heart rate typically increases in a linear fashion up to maximal levels. Stroke volume increases to about 40 to 50% of maximal capacity and then plateaus. Hence, if somebody's getting physically taxed, what do? You start getting the ragged breathing and so forth to try to compensate for that. Okay? Oxygen extraction from the blood at the cellular level depends on the muscle fiber type and the availability of specialized oxidative enzymes. Okay, we spoke of that earlier. Kind of bunching some things together. Slow twitch muscle fibers are specifically adapted for oxygen extraction and utilization. The Kenyan marathon runner, okay. Aerobic production of ATP occurs in the mitochondria of the cells. Okay? Aerobic means what? With air or with oxygen. The circulatory system increases blood flow to the active muscles and decreases blood flow to the non-active areas such as the viscera, allowing a higher concentration of oxygen to be extracted. Makes sense. Okay? Now, supplying the body with energy. The body cells require energy in the form of ATP. We're getting that a couple, 3, 4 times now. I think they want us to remember that. The figure below breaks down the conversion of foods from their ingested forms to ATP. Okay? Food consumption here. Digestion occurs what? As soon as it gets into the mouth, right? Okay? So, absorption in the blood is transported to the active cells for immediate usage or storage. Okay? So we have fat, carbohydrates, and proteins. Okay? They're synthesized a little bit differently. Fat gets broken down to fatty acid. Okay? Trying to get ATP or storage is adipose tissue. Okay? In times of starvation, fat is a good substrate. Not in times not of starvation. Carbs, your body's favorite or favored substrate for energy. Okay? Notice, not storage is adipose tissue, storage is glycogen. Good. Yielding ATP. And then proteins, again, a little bit more convoluted. Of course, proteins primarily involved with growth and repair tissue, lean body mass, excretion of excesses, metabolic pathways yielding ATP and ATP. Now, of these three things, the body likes carbohydrates the best for the production of glycogen, okay? Fat next, protein, not so good. So, when you see people, I'm not picking on anybody, but we've all seen it, the bodybuilder, perhaps successful, but they're eating massive amounts of protein, right? Chicken breasts all over. Anybody ever seen that? Eating one like every half hour or whatever?
A chicken breast every half hour?
Yeah. I'm being a little sarcastic, but frequently throughout the day, okay? How much glycogen is that gonna yield?
Not much.
Everybody with me? Okay, great. That's good for repairing your body perhaps, fueling muscles
Your mind is crap.
for repair, but how are you gonna fuel your workout? That's the disconnect, okay? That's kind of the difference when you see an actual natural bodybuilder versus one that's using the anabolic agents. Natural bodybuilder is gonna be much smaller. Still look fabulous, but they're gonna look a lot smaller than somebody using the anabolicos, probably because their muscles aren't able to assimilate as much protein as somebody would be ingesting the synthetic testosterone. Just food for thought, gang. I saved this screen too. I wanted to give that to you. We have another look at that though, but there's last couple of screens there.
You hear a lot about the diet, the caveman diet, whatever,
Yeah.
The omnivorous diet?
what do they call it?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Can't, the name is.
Oh, never mind, he's going over to you now. Yeah, I know what you mean. That one.
Yeah.
Where they're supposed to eat nothing but what's available to.
Yeah, basically the, meat and vegetables and nuts, not very much fruit.
What is that called?
Paleo
Yeah,
diet.
yeah.
Paleo diet, okay.
So how do you, I know for the workouts that I do, I know I need carbs, otherwise I'll get weak during the workouts.
Absolutely.
But, how does their body perform differently? Because I know some people that religiously follow a paleo diet and they are beasts.
And again, a lot of it could be a genetic factor as well. Here's my experiences. I've been successful as a bodybuilder and a power lifter. And of course, bodybuilders are more interested in visual presentation than actual strength, but that's why I felt privileged, because I had a well-rounded knowledge, okay? In order to be a successful bodybuilder, you have to have that appearance, like your skin is almost more like a
Saran wrap.
saran wrap or something like that. Yes, okay? You have to deplete body fat to do so, okay? So granted, your percentages of foods will change, okay? You don't want to lose hard gained muscle, but you still need to work out, okay? So, I always thought though, I've tried to go with no carbs, like God, I feel like a zombie. If you don't overdo it and still have some glycogen available, then you can get a good workout and not feel like a zombie. So, anybody got a calculator? Got a phone with a calculator? Nathan, you got anything to take this down?
No,
Okay.
it's charged in my truck.
Okay, well here, just got something you can write down
Oh,
now?
yeah.
Okay. You know everybody, you know how much you weigh, right? Okay? If you got some kind of a calculator or something, put your weight down. Me, I'll put 150. Okay? Just this is gonna be quick and fun. So take your body weight, divide it by 2.2. Okay? Now, we got our weight in kilos. Does everybody got a number much less than your body weight? So with me, at $150, that's probably a little on the heavy side, I'm close to about 145, 68.18 kilos. Now, take that kilo amount and times it by 1.5. Okay, I came up with 102.2727 repeating. Okay? And some of you heavier would have a larger number, some lighter than me would have a lighter number.
What is the 1.5?
Okay, good question. That 1.5 is 1.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. If you're, quote, an active individual, as deemed by the American College of Sports Medicine or the American Council on Exercise, that should be adequate for an athletic individual. So, if you're taking in 2 and 3 times the amount of protein that you should have,
2, 3.
ta-da, storage is adipose tissue. Gonna-
And stinky
So
farts.
that's the, what is that number? I'm sorry.
Okay, that number would be a nice, reasonable number of how many grams of protein you should be taking in a day.
That is almost impossible to get without serious effort to get 156 grams of protein.
Yes, thank you.
I strive every day to get 120 grams
Thank
of protein
you.
a day.
God bless you. You don't have to be eating, though, you don't have to have a chicken breast every half hour to get that. I get out my little tin of tuna fish, okay? I was at 102. That's 5 little tins of tuna fish from the moment I get up at 05:30 to the moment I hit the rack, probably at about 11:30. I only need 5 of those.
A lot of people's diets don't have even nearly
No.
60 grams of protein, though.
But you see the young men primarily, in their gym bag, they got that big old jar of protein powder. They're taking in 200-300 grams a day and wondering, God, I don't look lean like you.
Yeah, because you're getting fatty.
Crap, you know? No crap, that's why. But they don't want to listen. But anyways, I just wanted to give you a perspective.
What's the 1.5? Or is that just,
That's the grams of protein per kilo of body weight. And again, I'm not trying to out you. What did you come up with, Makisha? 88? Yeah, it's reasonable.
So that's 1 chicken breast and 2 protein shakes.
Yeah.
It'd be about 8.
And check your,
Well, how many grams of protein do you have per protein shake?
It's 20 to 30.
what's that? Say again?
How many grams of?
I've seen
protein?
some people with like 50 grams, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's-
but I
yeah, your
think
body can't absorb
I've
it.
heard that the body can't absorb it.
Yeah.
No. The last I checked, let's see, let me just recheck this. So I can err.
I want to say you can only absorb like 30 grams
Yeah,
of protein
I'm still,
an
yeah,
hour.
around
I
there,
checked
yeah.
my figures twice. For me, 102 grams. Now, and I love prime rib, gang, I love all that stuff. Boone's Long Lake Inn, 22-ounce prime rib. Last I checked, you know how much of that I could actually use? Maybe up to 4 ounces at most. The rest is going to be stored probably as adipose tissue. Scary, isn't it? Most of us don't get enough or get too much. Nobody's right where they need to be.
Well, this is still kind of a generalized thing, but
That's again, that's for an active person, okay? Now, active can be, a lot of people for activity, that's getting off the couch to go to the fridge and back to the couch again, but I'm moderately active. I run about 20 miles a week and I work out and stuff. I'd say I'm moderately active. I'm not doing a marathon this year. When I was training for a marathon, you run 50 to 60 miles a week in order to make mustard. Okay, energy systems available during exercise. This is cool. And in your book, you have a couple of different nice graphs, okay? But the 3 primary energy systems that supply the body with ATP during exercise are the phosphagen system, anaerobic glycolysis, and aerobic glycolysis. Now here's the thing. Let me get my book out. I want you to make sure you know where these pages are, because they're in a couple of different spots. I said, gang, is that a pretty book?
Been beat up a little bit.
It is. Like I said, the moment you stop referring to this, here we go, I got it tagged E. I think your best graph would be on page, now, everybody got the 4th edition? I like it at page, yeah, I'm sorry, Todd, yeah, please take that. 223 is where mine is, and I have a 4th edition, but mine might be off a page or two, okay? And so, on that one, aerobic glycolysis is being called the oxidative system. But again, have a look at that now. Here's what's gonna be amazing.
What was the page number again?
223, I think. Let me have a look here
It
again.
is 223,
Is it the same to everybody? Does everybody's 223 look like mine? Now, some of my students past semester, they're off by about by a page or two. Yeah, you got it.
Is
Okay.
the most recent one that the bookstore has, is that 4?
The fourth edition, yep. Now, having said that, have a look at me, gang. This is gonna be easy to remember. The phosphagen system lasts only a matter of seconds, okay? I think up to about 20 seconds. Anaerobic glycolysis, about 20 to 30 seconds, up to about 2 minutes, and then you change to aerobic glycolysis. So, sprinter, dash, marathon, if you have to help yourself think of those, okay? Now, that's what's interesting, because when you're training somebody, you wanna know what energy system that they're in. I'm trying to beat this over the head, but you'll see this time and again, okay? So, remember, very short-lived. Short-lived, more of a duration. And when you get into aerobic glycolysis, really interesting things happening, especially like with a marathon runner and so forth, okay? Because, let me just throw something at you, gang. What happens when all your energy's gone? All your substrates available to you are gone?
Your wall.
Hit a wall, okay?
2 hour
What else
mark.
could happen?
Lightheaded.
I always heard the body cannibalizes itself for energy.
Okay, good. That's what we call ketosis.
Yes.
Okay? But another amazing thing happens. To some point, the body can recycle lactic acid. Okay, gang? Everybody knows lactic acid? That's the cellular waste. That's the waste material cells make. Okay? It's called gluconeogenesis. And it's very amazing. Studies have been coming out more so. When I was studying 20 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of mention to it. So the study of sports in general and exercise in general has come a long way. But so here, in aerobic glycolysis, we're thinking maybe a marathon or something, you're also going to be using your body's lactate as a fuel source. Not a great one, but a little bit. And then that's what's called sometimes running from the gut. You have nothing left to go, but you're going to go anyway.
Would that also be your second wind?
No, I don't believe so. I think a second wind would be more an endorphin release in the brain. At least that would be for me. No, gluconeogenesis, you're still going to feel like dog doo-doo, except you're going to be able to carry on.
And that point, I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
was gonna say, at that
because
point-
marathon runners do it.
Yeah, that point is typically, from what I remember from nutrition science classes, was like the 2 hour-ish mark when that starts really happening.
Gluconeogenesis,
The
good
catatonic
point.
states.
It would depend on the athlete or the participant's,
Recent intake.
what their level of function would be. So for instance, I'm a slow runner, and I'm a very inefficient runner. Mine would be radically different from like one of these people that look like a gazelle kind of thing, okay? I would not be running at the same level, so my level of assimilation of energy through gluconeogenesis would be different than somebody who is highly trained. I'm an inefficient runner.
Your form is just
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's no way of telling when that would take place. It would depend on their, one, their genetics,
Mhm.
2, their training, their nutrition before and during, and also then what their level of output would be.
Yeah, I think I remember the average is right around the 2 hour mark, that's what I
That
was
sounds
wondering.
reasonable to
Yeah.
me, certainly. Okay, respiratory exchange ratio, sometimes known as RER, okay? Carbon dioxide divided by oxygen consumed, okay? It's a marker for the proportion of fat or carbohydrate being used for fuel at different intensities during the steady state exercise. Okay, steady state means your oxygen needs are being met, okay, aerobically. Now, at rest, RER is about 0.75, meaning the body is burning approximately 85% fat and 15% carbohydrate. As intensity increases, so does the respiratory exchange ratio, meaning a larger percentage of carbohydrate is being burned and a lesser percentage of fat. Okay, that's where the rationale came of the old LSD, not the hallucinogen, but the mindset called long, slow, and distant. If somebody is trying to use fat as a substrate, they would train at longer durations, at lesser intensities, but more recently, that's sometimes fallen by the wayside, okay? So that's where that rationale came from though, okay? So here, the use of RER has been linked to a very common misconception that low intensity exercise is the best way to lose more weight because it burns more fat. As I said, it's a misconception. That's LSD, long, slow, distant, used to be the mindset. That's changed a little bit right now. Okay? Meaning, where they're going with that, let's make sure we're, to be clear, is the idea now is the amount of calories burned is going to be the precondition for weight loss rather than the intensity level, okay? I have a hard time swallowing that. I do, but that's what our text says. But I can tell, you've especially a bad parent, don't do as I do as I say. I have a hard time still swallowing that. I still feel in my heart the LSD is the best way, the long, slow distance. However, that's not what our text tells us. So go with what our text says, but I still have trouble swallowing it. That makes sense?
So the text is saying calories in, calories out?
Exactly.
So is that
Just like-
basically an ACE thing then? Because I mean that, like you said, that's against everything with heart rate ratios and determining actual percentages and your source of calorie / energy, and
Yeah.
that's a little disturbing.
Let me say, can I take this, Makisha, just for a second? I remember,
Because your heart rate zones that's
I
kind of like
remember
the Bible
seeing-
of your source of.
I read an interesting article about the zone training
Mhm.
and how,
okay, gang, I'm sorry, go ahead. No, Todd.
well, it was really interesting in that it basically said that once you find your idyllic aerobic threshold, then you need to keep training at that threshold between the aerobic and versus the anaerobic, and don't do any anaerobic. Thus, over time, your body's threshold will increase. So your
Yeah.
output, your
Mhm.
actual output will increase, your body will become more efficient
Yeah.
at training in
Okay.
that aerobic zone.
As you become more cardiovascular fit, then
And I'll dovetail that, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves,
Yeah.
but that's not a problem, we're here to learn, right? What Todd said was, and I'm going into technical terms, he's saying that his idea was, if you train right at the cusp between the first and second ventilatory thresholds, that's where the progress will be made in oxygen extraction. But if you go past the second ventilatory threshold, you won't be able to maintain that, and then you're gonna become inefficient again, okay? So, question, how do you know, this is to everybody, where you've crossed the threshold between VT1 and VT2?
Magic.
And I've got a super simple answer.
Aren't there a lot of calculations to basically determine yours, and then if you're actually monitoring your calorie burn rate along with your heart rate and a lot of other things, like for me, my sweet spot's kind of 145 beats per minute.
Okay, but
Slash
that will
or-
change.
But that changes.
That will
Yeah,
cha-
the more I work out in a month, it'll increase. I usually say increase by 5 on a
Beautiful.
weekly basis.
You're,
This-
yeah, but that's only gonna be good to a certain
Yeah.
point.
Okay.
You gotta increase your anaerobic threshold to maintain a higher rate for a longer period of
Okay,
time.
so here, and again, let's come back then to that, and where it is, this isn't a trick question. I can tell you absolutely when somebody's crossed the first ventilatory threshold en route to the second. You know how that is? It's a thing that we call a talk test. Okay?
I like it.
Okay,
Recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
We do that by thing.
this is beautiful. Yes, we're having a great conversation. Okay, it's called RPE, rates of perceived exertion. And I got a handout that I'll be handing out. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but that's okay. A talk test. Say I'm training somebody on a treadmill or running with them or what have you. You ever heard the runners? Just
Try to talk,
gabby, it's like,
Mhm.
God, will they ever shut up, especially if you're, trying to meditate. You can safely assume they are not even at the first ventilatory threshold because they're talking freely. When the response becomes labored is when you've crossed the threshold, because your oxygen extraction will change and you have to breathe heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that simple? That's beautiful. You don't need to be a scientist or have the RG3 mask on to determine what ventilatory threshold you are. You do a talk test through what we call rates of perceived exertion, RPEs, and there's several different kinds. We're there, let's talk about them right now.
Okay.
You got a couple of different scale. You got the 1 to 10 scale, which is similarly used by doctors and so forth, okay? Everybody gets that. When I was a young man, there was a movie called 10. Dudley Moore falls in love with this beach bunny lady, and he can't get her out of his head, so the psychologist said, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would she be? And he says an 11, okay? So that was his example of saying how attractive he thought the woman was. Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, childbirth or getting tased should be like a 10, and then moderate discomfort at a 5, and so forth, okay? Now, there's another one called the Borg scale. And this one's weird. It goes from 6 to 20. Okay? It sounds crazy, right? But if you have 6 to 20 and put a 0 after both numbers, so 6 would be 60 and 20 would be 200. Now it's making sense, right? The Borg scale now is corresponding to heart rate. So there's 2 of many of rates of perceived exertion. The talk test would be a third one. And there's many, okay? So let's get back, though, to that prior screen. Makisha, let me borrow her book. Go to page 76, those that have it. Okay, and can I borrow your book for a minute, Makisha? Who doesn't have a book?
I don't know.
Okay, take a picture. This is the explanation that seems to fly in the face of reason.
Where this
Right here, this margin. And you know what, I'll give one of you my book too. Everybody got a picture of that though? Okay. And I don't want to read out of the book, but it says, does low intensity exercise burn more fat? Okay. Okay, I'm reading down. Okay. The results which are presented in figure 2.5 show that for the low intensity exercise, subject burned a total of 240 calories, with 96 of those calories, or 41%, coming from fat. During the high intensity bout, a total of 450 calories were burned, with 108 of those calories, or 24%, coming from fat. Therefore, during the low intensity bout, there was a higher percentage of calories coming from fat but the total number of fat calories was less than during the high-intensity trial. So there's the kind of rub, and again, gang, I don't completely buy it, okay? But I wanted to make sure that you saw where that statement came from, okay? Because I said, the prior screen adequately described initially why LSD, the long, slow, distant, was the better method, but then it comes out with that.
It goes back to, what do you burn more calories doing, running a mile or walking a mile? Walking a mile, because you're doing it for a
Longer period of time.
Well, and a lot of people who are in worse shape have an easier time doing a slower exercise. Therefore
Yes.
they'll
But
do it more so.
then again, the reason why the higher intensity probably works is because you're building muscle which burns fat in return. So it's
Wouldn't all this depend on what you're trying to do though?
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
It,
running, there's, someone that walks all the time is not gonna be able to
No,
run a marathon.
no.
So you train to exercise.
yeah, and again, we're having a great conversation, but like I said, some things don't exactly, I have to accept them, but in my life, it seems like LSD seems to work better, not the hallucinogen, the long, slow, distant.
I love that he keeps coming back for you for that one.
Yeah. No, because I borrowed her book. No, but anyways, gang, a good conversation, okay? Now, with the oxygen consumption, you'll hear VO2 max, sometimes known as maximal oxygen consumption or intake. Going back to the Gatorade commercial with RG3 with the headgear and running on a treadmill, if you see some kind of apparatus like that, that's probably what they're measuring, okay? Maximal oxygen uptake, okay? Relative VO2 max allows for comparisons between individuals. Aha! NFL Combine come to mind, okay? That only goes so far though. Does a laboratory translate to performance? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But, okay, absolute VO2 max is used to determine caloric expenditure during specific activities. We're gonna move on then, and certain activities would be their level of expenditure can also sometimes be expressed as METs. Anybody seen METs on a piece of aerobic gear? It means metabolic equivalent, meaning that the average person would use 3.5 liters of oxygen per minute per kilogram of body weight. So the two are closely related. Nobody's ever seen MET if they've gotten on for instance, an elliptical or a treadmill. Our ellipticals and treadmills in there will express a workout in terms of METs, but remember, it's an estimation. If you're trying to determine VO2 max, if you don't have the headgear on and a laptop and all that stuff, you're gonna be throwing kind of darts in the dark there, okay? Okay, and some theory. Oxygen consumption during aerobic exercise.